Hello everyone, welcome back to Affinity for Commander, where we're looking at our second Spacecraft Commander from the edge of what can reasonably be considered a legendary creature set. As always, like any of the cards you see here today in this video, please make all of your purchases through our lovely affiliate links in the description box below. It doesn't cost you anything extra, but really helps the channel out quite a lot. Now, let's take a look at our spaceship. Inspirit Flagship vessel is a legendary artifact spacecraft for Jeskai colors. They have station, which, quick reminder, means that you can tap a creature to put a number of charge counters on our lovely flagship equal to that creature's power. When Inspirit has one or more counters they gain, at the beginning of combat on your turn, you put your choice of a +1/+1 counter or 2 charge counters onto one of the target artifact. When they have 8 or more charge counters on them, they become a 5/5 flyer with other artifacts you control have hexproof and indestructible. So this is going to be nothing short of Jeskai artifacts with +1/+1 counters on them to make sure our opponent's life totals don't stay high for very long. With our commander then later granting indestructible, so swinging out leads to, well, absolutely 0 casualties for us. So this deck is going to be absolutely chocked full of artifact creatures and some good old-fashioned is-it sprinkling of white in artifact synergies. Let's get to it. Technically, at 0 mana, we have Astral Cornucopia and Everflowing Chalice as ramping artifacts that get better as the game goes on, as Inspirit can just keep giving them more and more charge counters to tap for more and more mana. Also at 0, but will obviously not be cast for 0, we have Walking Ballista and Hangerback Walker. 2 creatures that absolutely benefit from the +1/+1 commanders our commander is throwing around, with the Ballista being just an amazing way to machine gun down our opponent's boards or faces. Now for, actual mana, Swords and Dispatch for removal, as having Metalcraft in this deck will not be a problem, and an amazing reprint of Swan Song. See, we can occasionally have nice things. Nice things like the Ozolith, which, yes, I know, okay, it's a little bit spenny at the moment, but the ability to essentially ensure all our counters never go away, and the power of our board and charge counters can be moved really around, really jumps the deck's power up quite a few notches. Now on to the 2-drops, and I'm going to run through these next few cards really quickly. Talisman of Conviction, Creativity and Progress and Felwar Stone. No, not Mind Stone, because we need colours to be able to cast our commander securely on turn 3. Okay, look, I'll stop putting them in every single deck I have that isn't green when they stop being the perfect 2-mana artifact ramp, okay? Okay. Now, actual ramp in cards like Pentad Prism that might well enter with 2 counters, but our commander means they're going to be getting more as the game goes on. To make these spells cheaper, Ethereum Sculptor and Enthusiastic Mechanaut might actually be a better turn 2 than a genuine artifact ramp spell, as we then have a creature out to tap after casting our Spacecraft Commander on turn 3 to then level it up immediately to start dishing out counters. The only other creatures we have are Steel Overseer to buff our board every turn, and Lion Sash to act as graveyard hate, perhaps even a way to make our commander damage far more of a threatening presence. And just in case some people really fancy getting rid of our wing cons, or anything really, Boros Charm offers indestructible along with a little wind potential with a double striking commander. Meanwhile, Ripples of Potential proliferates our counters and then can phase out any creatures, either for favourable blocks to save our creatures from either damage or board wipe or any targeted removal in fact. And the last card at 2CMC is the new Moxite Refinery, a 2-mana artifact that essentially lets us swap our +1/+1 counters for charge counters, and vice versa. Now, I can think of a very good moment where we have loads of charge counters on our commander, and then just transferring them all onto one creature for a solid swing in. A unique card, certainly, and honestly perfect in this deck. At the 3-drops, we've got more creatures to be tapping to put more charge counters on our spacecrafts, or at least, cards that make creatures. Arcbound Shikarai buffs our team and can be buffed himself. Chrome Host Seed Shark makes us artifact creatures that can be activated when we need them. And Emery, Lurker of the Loch, whilst not an artifact creature, she does let us replay destroyed or milled artifacts. But on some new cards, Patrolling Peacemaker proliferates whenever our opponents even look at us funny, Surge Conductor proliferates on Artifact ETB, and the alternative commander for the deck, Kilo Apogi Mind, proliferates whenever tapped. Now this could be, attacking, which is why I imagine they have haste, or to instead tap for a cost, like putting charge counters on something. Speaking of putting charge counters on something, Seriema and authors of Researchcraft both would love to have Cleo tap to put charge counters on them, and then proliferate those counters. The Seriema is a legend shooter and then gives those legends indestructible, and the authors is artifact card draw and puts its own charge counters on just for playing our deck, eventually resulting in a rather beefy flying attacker. The last creature at 3CMC is Low Shield Clockwork Scholar to prevent our attackers dying from damage and to be that always elusive thing, white card draw. Meanwhile, actual card draw comes in the shape of Insight Engine that's drawing more and more cards every turn, and the good old-fashioned thirst for knowledge. Now the last few cards at 3CMC are just pure value. Cloud Key to make our artifacts one generic cheaper, Golem Foundry to start churning out 3/3 golems thanks to all the charge counters and proliferations going on, and Long Range Sensor to get free spells from the top of our library with Discovering 4. And the fact it only costs one generic mana is kind of crazy, because 2 charge counters is absolutely nothing for our deck. The Solar Array is going to be letting our artifact creatures enter with at least 3+1/+1 counters onto them, and Titan Forge, much like the Golem Foundry, can just spew out tokens. These are, however, 9/9s. Feels like this card was kind of designed before proliferation was such a big thing. Now up to the 4-drops, where our creatures will be causing some more serious damage. Herald of Secret Streams, whilst not an artifact, yes, does give all of our counted up creatures unblockable, which when we can now get through that wall of tokens, this card is going to become an absolute win con. Filigree Vector dishes both types of counters we need and can even sack artifacts we don't need anymore to proliferate, like a Solemn, for example, a perfect sacrificing target. Something we won't be sacrificing, however, is Crystalline Crawler, a card I absolutely love. Enters with at least 3 mana worth of counters on them, and you don't need to tap to remove it, it's just mana straight away, which you can then proliferate or tap them to just put more counters on them. Similar to Etched Oracle, but they are card draw and a little bit steeper for the activation. But to proliferate these counters, we have Kaith, which gives us either more tokens or more counters by tapping, and giving all non-token creatures Fabricate should see us proliferating off into the sunset. Jorah, Weatherlight Captain, is going to be a great card draw engine for us, as is Shurikai, Genesis Engine, but they also, make blockers. With Tekathal, Inquiry Dominus rounding off our non-artifact creatures, but considering he doubles our proliferate triggers and can be made indestructible himself, he's pretty alright. Pretty okay, pretty good. But back to the artifacts. Empowered Auto-Generator for more mana every turn with our commander and proliferations happening. Lux Artillery for removal on a stick, and Phyrexia Metamorph to copy any of these lovely powerhouses, depending on what we need. The last card at 4CMC is Wave Goodbye, a lovely one-sided board bounce for us, hopefully just opening up our opponents to take a ton of damage. Now up to the high ends, and we've got win cons on win cons on win cons. Deep Glow Skate essentially functions to double the power of our board and can double all of our charge counters too, and with enough counters and having an all will be won out, this just means we're going to be throwing around a ton of damage. Or even if we're just proliferating, this enchantment is still going to be dealing damage around like nobody's business through our commander's ability and just the general effects of our deck. Alibu gives some all-important haste to get damage dealing done. Thoughtcast and Thought Monitor round up our drawing, with both hopefully being cast for considerably less mana than they say. And now we can get on to the cards that genuinely are going to win the game. Kappa Cannoneer is the weakest of the bunch, but cheating out a big turtle that only gets bigger and will pretty much be unblockable will become a serious threat. Cyberdrive Awakener is Moonlight Cavalry for artifacts. Flying in a base and power toughness to 4/4 means someone's getting hit for a ton of damage. especially when you consider that we are putting loads of +1/+1 counters on these creatures already. Hence, having organic extinction should hopefully just be a one-sided board wipe made all the cheaper through improvisation. The last two non-land cards are Wake the Past to bring back all our artifacts after a board wipe, and importantly give them all haste, and the brand new Depth Shaker Titan, which I do enjoy the idea of making our talismans into 3/3s, and then hitting our opponents, triggering melee to turn them all into 6/6s with Trample. This robo is definitely more situational, but getting out enough tokens with cards like our Shark, or just turning our mana rocks into threats, is always going to be funny to me. Now onto the utility lands, and considering we're a deck of artifacts, there's quite a few. Academy Ruins for getting back that Walking Ballista now they've got a ton of mana to use it with. Buried Ruin, much for the same reason. Inventor's Fair for some tardy life gain, but also, tutoring's rather good, I've heard. Khan's Bastion to proliferate our counters. Spire of Industry for fixing. And the Mycosynth Gardens to copy any needed artifacts. And lastly, of course, the new Uthros Titanic God Corps, because of course we're running it. If any deck is going to abuse this card, it's the one that specialises in erasing the station cost as fast as possible, and then has the entire deck being artifacts. Overall, I'm still not entirely sure I'm sold on the station mechanic being a thing, but I do like the fact that Inspirit does make +1/+1 counters and charge counters come together, especially charge counters now actually being super relevant and actually having a space and a home in this commander deck. Plus, having an actual spaceship commander and then using a Walking Ballista's effect does kind of make the little space nerd inside of me quite a little bit happy. Like, I'm Captain Kirk or something, and that planet below is not returning my call, so just, fire at will. And that will be the end of the video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. What cards are you excited about from Edge of Eternities? Let us know in the comments below. As always, all Affinity for Commander content is made possible thanks to support of our amazing patrons. You guys are truly awesome. If you do like to support the channel and become a patron yourself and get access to exclusive EDH related rewards, then be sure to check out our link in the description box below. But that'll be it from me for now, guys. As always, I've been Alex, and I'll see you next time.